welcome to the Shelley Studio. Today, this is part 4, I think, of creating the book, my collection of curiosities book, I guess is what I'm calling it. And this is assembling the cover. So, if you saw the previous videos, I did a gel print using the spiral design, and that kind of made me want to do that as the cover. And I had this fun foam hanging around, so I drew the spiral onto the fun foam and then just cut it out by hand. It's not perfect, but I think it looks good enough. And I also cut some long skinny strips to try and recreate that grid pattern. Of course, my spiral isn't the same size, but bigger's better, right? And so I'm going to put the grid pattern down first, and I'm just gluing it down with my glitter glue, and yeah, and then I've watched a few videos on making Halloween book covers, and they did it where you create the dimension and then you cover it with tissue and you collage that down to hold everything in place. So that is the plan. I think you see most or all of me gluing the first part down, but the rest, it is edited because this was very long to do this. Because I make the cover and then I put the front and back cover together and sew in the signatures that I made in the last video. I'll create a playlist and put it in the description box below. I know there is going to be a video hop. Pretty sure they're still planning to do a video hop and a flip through of what I've done up to the point where the videos do. Will be on that video hop, so I'll also add that to the playlist. And then if you're following PM Artist Studios, they're the ones that host the hop, and you'll know all about that. Hopefully. Alright, so now I'm going to glue the spiral on. One part you don't see is underneath the spiral. Like after I glue it down, I decided the areas that didn't have the grid under it needed supporting. So I do put little pieces of the fun foam underneath that, but you don't see that part. But that holds it up, so when I'm collaging the tissue down, it doesn't collapse, so it stays level, all on one level. And I'm just gluing at every connection there, and then I let that sit and dry. And I don't know, if you look really closely, you can see little yellow bits poking out. I was not perfect, but they do have support now. Oh, and I decided to add some random numbers and letters, because, you know, it looks like math, right? Geometry, trigonometry. So I add some. They're random. I'm not even thinking too much about what numbers I'm using, except for I decided I wanted to use the X for some reason. And they are sticky, but I'm adding a little bit of glue just to make sure they stay in place. Oh, and I decided I wanted 2 dots at the bottom. So I took the circles out of the 8 and used them at the bottom. Alright, so I have some wet strength tissue, and I'm like, this will be great. I can collage this down and it won't tear. But it also does not conform. around detail like the numbers. So I struggle with it for a little while, trying really hard to get it to go down all around. But as you can see, I'm like pushing it, but it won't stay down. So it's going. And I pull out some regular gift wrap tissue. I did try that spot just as a tester because I wasn't sure how it would work. So since I'm going to use the regular tissue, I'm just going right for the center of the spiral. And we're going to put this down. And this is cheapo tissue, and it's tearing like crazy. I was going to do 2 layers, but I decided I didn't need it. I just do 1 layer. It kind of covers the fun foam, and the rest I will do with some modeling paste and gesso. Yeah, I just slowly work my way around. I do have this super sped up for your viewing ease, I guess. If you want to slow it down, you're welcome to, but it's pretty basic, I think, what I'm doing here. You know, I do put a little bit of matte medium underneath the tissue, and then I go over the top. This tissue was so thin, I probably wouldn't have needed to go underneath, but I felt like I needed to, so that's what I did. I went underneath and then over the top. And you can see there, it's tearing like crazy. Especially under the high parts where that spiral is. It was really high up for the tissue. But yeah, you can see me going under there and then collaging down. And you can see the pencil where I had originally sketched it, but that won't matter. It'll be gone with all the layers of paint that are forthcoming. Alright, so once I get all of that done, this encyclopedia was an encyclopedia that I cut apart. And so it has a raw edge on one side. So I decided for the raw edges, or for all the edges, I would do some of that wet strength tissue paper, the Carnival tissue paper, just to go around the edges, because I figured that would be good. It's pretty straight except for, oh, I don't do that until after the modeling paste. Okay, I do modeling paste next. I felt like there was still spaces in the tissue, you know, it tore apart there, so I'm just filling in the gaps and smoothing things out so it looks a little bit more sculptural. And I had to find something small to get in there to I don't want to lose the grid, I just want to fill up the gaps that are underneath. So I'm using, that's a paintbrush with catalyst tool on the end. I'm kind of using it to scoop the modeling paste and stuff it in there. And then I'm using a crochet hook, and I think the back of a colored pencil are the 2 items I use to try and just scoop it out. Because my fingers don't fit in that little space. And I don't make you watch me do the whole thing. I do go around the whole spiral, filling in all the gaps. Just so that it's nice and smooth and there's not going to be weird air holes underneath everything. This is where I think this is where I pull out the colored pencil. Just smooth that out. Like I said, I go around and do the whole thing. There it is. It's all done. That part, the modeling paste. And now I'm sanding off the excess tissue that's just hanging around. That's the original, just the regular tissue. I'm just sanding all those edges. Getting it prepared, because now I think is when I wrap the edges with the wet strength tissue. I didn't want any lumps and bumps on top of my pattern, so that's going as well. Okay. Now, to do this, I am avoiding any of the numbers and letters. I'm just doing the very edge and just wrapping it around so it covers the unfinished edge. And I decided to do that around all of it. And I do go over, of course, the little ridges, but surprisingly, you can't tell. You can't tell that there's another layer of tissue. And I'm just tearing off from the one that I had messed up earlier, so I don't want it to stick to my table, so I put that roll of tape just to keep it from sitting flat on the table and getting stuck while I do this. So I fold it over and I kind of smooth things out with my fingers. I don't want any loose pieces on the edges. And there we go. And I do that on all 4 sides. It's the first time I've done one like this, and I'm pretty excited how it turned out. If you want to see it before watching the whole video, you can just zoom to the end. Or you can watch the whole process and listen to me jabber about random things, right? Okay, so this is gesso. I give it a good coat of gesso. I think I do 2 coats, though I don't know that it was really necessary because I go over it with black. But it also helps fill in those gaps underneath the foam spiral. I do try to keep it defined so that when it's all done, I want to be able to tell what it is. So I do work at keeping the definition of everything. And I don't think I make you watch this whole thing either. Just so you can get an idea of what I'm doing. And I'm using, it's an acrylic brush, but it's kind of stiff, but not too stiff. I want to be able to push into the grooves, but I don't want to scratch anything. Everything's going to appear to disappear a little bit, but we'll highlight all the pattern in the end. So how's everyone doing? Did you watch the last couple videos? See how I did it? See what I've done so far? I've just, I did 2 gel printing sessions and then 1 session where I created the signatures to go in the book. That's all I've done so far. Video-wise, I have today, as of today, I've made it halfway through the pages in filling them up with stuff. So I feel pretty good about that. I'm pretty sure that's black, but I'm not sure why it looks like that. Maybe I mixed it with a little bit of something to make it not quite black, but it's black. Unless there were lumps in the paint and then I beat it to death so I could use it. I was going to do black gesso, but it had been so long since I used my black gesso, it had gone solid, so it went bye-bye. I might have mixed a little bit of gesso in with the black to try and make it not so shiny. And then I think this layer is regular black. I think that's what I had done. I'd mixed gesso in with it. And then this one is a black craft paint, I believe. So I did 2 layers of that, and I still had to go look at all the angles and spot some white spots that needed help. So this is actually the back of the book. I started with my colorizing on the back, just in case I don't like it. It'll be easier to fix than the front, right? I think this is crimson red that I'm putting on, and I'm just putting it in blotches. And then, pretty sure that is nickel azo gold. If you got it, flaunt it. If you know, you know. Yeah, just kind of highlighting the edges of the book. And then I'll spread some across the back a little bit. But really just adding layers, exploring, seeing what I want it to look like, what does it need. That way that's all done on the back, and then I'll just try to repeat it on the front. Yeah, just taking the leftover paint, adding it with the brush. That one is a rough brush. That is my stencil brush. Okay, I set that aside. I decided I liked that so far, and this time I'm kind of using the stencil brush and getting it down in. The plan is for the flat areas, not necessarily the ridges for this part, even though it's going to get on it, but the goal is to get the background. Yeah, I'm just taking a damp baby wipe and wiping it off of the ridges, and now going in with the nickel azo gold. I use these colors a lot in this project, and they're not even my favorites. Maybe because I felt like they went with Halloween and witches and magic. I don't know. Alright, so we're going to add a little teal. I decided it needed some lightening up. It's I wasn't necessarily going for rust, but that's kind of what happens. Like, when stuff oxidizes, you get a little bit of turquoise on there, especially if you use copper. It's usually a little bit more green than this, though. But I just wanted to add it. I had it. Let's add it. And of course, doing the back first, just in case I really don't like it. Streaks are definitely not perfect. painting with my fingers. They're very uneven. Had to wipe that one out. It was too blotchy. Now I'm taking that stencil brush, I think, or just another scruffy brush, and just kind of giving it a light coating, just so the streaks that I made aren't too obvious, I guess. And then I decided to highlight the edges with the blue, with the teal. Alright, set that aside and we're going to attack this one. And I'm using a stiff brush. It's a bristle. Trying to think. My book doesn't look this light, like as light as this teal looks. I wonder, maybe I went over it with a little bit more red? More of the crimson or the quinacridone? Or maybe I wipe it down? I can't remember. I guess we'll both find out here in a minute if I show it. Oh, yep, see? Well, that's just going on the surface. Oh, yeah, here we go. Brushing in a little quinacridone. Quinacridone? Quinacridone nickel azel gold. Say that 10 times fast. Alright, so now that that's done, I want to highlight all the pattern. So I'm using some really old Inca gold, so I have to keep adding water to it so I can use it. I did not know I could reconstitute that stuff with water. I had bought it on clearance from, I think, Joann's, like years and years ago, and I had multiple colors, and I'd use, these ones were more moist, but they turned hard as rock, so I just threw the other colors away. And then I saw somebody on YouTube reconstituting it with water and using it. I'm like, dang, I could have kept those. But I have two. I have a antique gold and that really yellow gold. Alright, so I'm going to have a fabric spine. I'd seen somebody do a fabric spine and wanted to give it a try. I don't know why. It's pretty floppy. I think I was thinking once I filled it, it would, like, I don't know, firm up, like stretch out. I don't know. But, yeah, so I'm just doing a pamphlet stitch. I've marked in chalk on the fabric where I want it to line up. I'm trying to do that, and I forget there's not just fabric, there's tape holding those signatures together. So I need to poke a hole through the tape and then line that up. And this is not a good video for make your own signature tutorial or sew in your signature. It's part of it gets cut off, so on the bottom when I'm stitching, so I stopped. I cut the video off. Save us time and the struggle, because it was a long struggle. So, this is some paper I purchased at Mulberry Papers and More. I don't know who it's by, but I bought it because it was interesting and I wanted to bring something home. And so I decided it's going in my book of curiosities. And I did it to both sides. And now I'm just going to glue those panels onto the signature. So this is kind of the hard part, getting it lined up and square exactly where I want it to be, since that fabric signature is really floppy. So I'm using Barely Arts glue just because it's wet a little bit longer than the glitter glue, and if I mess this up, I can move it around. I know that kind of looks messed up, but I think I just pull it down a little bit and shift it into place. That's why I use that glue. And it's hard to know because everything flops around so much. I usually always do a stiff spine, so this is a little different for me. I'm gluing the rest of that fabric down. Put a little wax paper in there. And I'm going to do it to the other side. Get my wiggly pages all lined up the way they're supposed to be. My wiggly signatures. And it's hard too because I burnt my pages, so they aren't all even. They all burned at a little, I mean, they're all the same paper, but they have different paint on them. They burned at different rates. So some got a little bit more burnt than others. This time I'm going for doing all the way to the edge of that fabric. Get the wax paper in there. Lining up my book. There we go. Cover's on, signatures are done, everything is set. There is my book. Now to fill it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, leave me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Thank you all for watching. Have an awesome day.